Imagine a nightmare sailing upriver. A shadow falls over the unsuspecting city of Paris, not from clouds, but from a fleet of 100 dragon-headed longships. Their leader? Ragnar Lothbrok, a name that sends shivers down the spine of kings. You've heard the legends, but do you know the terrifying truth of the day part met the fury of the Northmen? How a city full not by siege but by sheer, brutal force and a king's agonizing choice. Prepare to witness the raid that changed history forever. Feel the panic, smell the smoke, and hear the clash of steel. This is the untold story of the 845 AD raid, seen through the eyes of both conqueror and conquered. If you're ready for an epic journey into this pivotal moment, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to experience every part of this powerful series. The whispers began on the salt-laced winds, carrying tales of a king among Vikings, a dragon of the northern seas, whose name was already a chilling legend, Ragnar Lothbrok. His ambition was as vast as the ocean he commanded, his hunger for wealth and glory insatiable. Unlike the countless smaller raids that gnawed at the coastlines, Ragnar dreamt of something grander, a stroke that would echo through the sagas for generations. His gaze, cold and calculating, fell upon Paris, the heart of the Frankish kingdom, a city ripe for plunder, known for its rich churches and burgeoning markets. From the fjords and inlets of the north, the longships gathered, over 100 swift vessels, their dragon-headed prows glinting, assembled like a gathering storm. Each ship was packed with hardened warriors, veterans of countless skirmishes, eager for the promise of silver and renown. Among them were Ragnar's own sons, young men whose eyes held the same glint of fierce ambition as their father's. It was a sight to inspire awe and terror, a floating army poised to strike. The journey south was swift, a relentless push across the gray North Sea, then into the winding arteries of the Frankish lands. The river Seine welcomed them, a liquid highway leading straight to the heart of their prey. As the vast fleet cut through the waters, the first faint whispers of their coming preceded them. Scattered villages fell silent, their inhabitants fleeing deeper into the forests. News of dragon ships spread like a fever, carried by terrified refugees and desperate messengers. But the vastness of the Frankish kingdom, fractured and sprawling, was slow to react. King Charles the Bald, preoccupied with internal squabbles and distant threats, underestimated the scale of the impending disaster. The warnings, though growing louder, seemed distant, easily dismissed as just another seasonal raid. No one in the comfortable halls of power truly grasped the true nature of the storm bearing down upon them. They did not yet understand that this was not merely a raid for sustenance. This was a calculated strike by a king who wished to burn his name into history, a dragon descending upon a land unprepared for its fiery breath. The longships kept coming, their silent passage up the Seine a chilling prelude to the inferno that awaited Paris. The sun dawned clear and bright over Paris, a deceptive spring morning. It was Easter Sunday, a day of peace and devotion when the city's inhabitants were focused on prayer and celebration. King Charles the Bald, leading a segment of his forces, was stationed some distance away, preparing for religious observance rather than battle. The city itself, though strategically important, was lightly garrisoned, its defenses geared more for internal order than for repelling a full-scale invasion. Then, the inconceivable happened. The first longships emerged from the morning mist on the Seine, their dragon heads piercing the silence. Soon they were not dozens, but hundreds, a terrifying armada blackening the river. The initial sight was met with stunned disbelief, quickly replaced by sheer, unadulterated panic. The river, the lifeblood of the city, had become the highway of its doom. Ragnar, a towering figure even amidst his fearsome warriors, led the charge. His immediate target was not the fortified island city of Paris itself, but the vulnerable monastery of Saint-Germain-des-Prés on the left bank. Monks and villagers, caught completely off guard by the speed and ferocity of the assault, had little chance to resist. The air filled with the clang of steel, the screams of the dying, and the triumphant roars of the Norsemen. The Franks managed to muster a small force, a contingent sent by Charles, but it was a desperate and futile effort. Divided and outmaneuvered by Ragnar's cunning tactics, many were swiftly cut down. Ragnar, not content with mere victory, sent a chilling message across the river to the terrified Parisians. Before their horrified eyes, 111 Frankish prisoners were publicly hanged on an island in the Seine, a brutal display designed to break their will and demonstrate the invaders' utter ruthlessness. Chaos reigned in Paris. Doors were barred, churches filled with desperate prayers, and the faint hope of rescue from the king's forces flickered and died with each passing hour. The city's inhabitants, accustomed to distant threats, now faced the ultimate terror directly at their gates. Ragnar's presence was overwhelming, his reputation preceding him, and his actions now cemented it in the minds of the terrified Franks. The Dragon King had arrived, and Paris, unprepared and exposed, awaited its fiery fate. With the surrounding monasteries plundered and the Frankish resistance shattered, Ragnar's gaze turned fully upon Paris itself. The city, situated on an island in the Seine, was not as easily overrun as the outlying settlements, but it was far from impregnable against such a vast and determined force. The Vikings, having already sent their chilling message with the hanged prisoners, now unleashed their fury. The air grew thick with smoke, not just from distant campfires, but from the rising flames within the city. Homes, workshops, and smaller churches on both banks of the river, and eventually, even parts of the island itself were put to the torch. The roar of the fire mingled with the triumphant shouts of the Norsemen and the terrified screams of the inhabitants who had not managed to flee or found themselves trapped. This was not a siege of patient waiting. It was a savage, swift assault aimed at terror and plunder. The primary objective was clear: wealth. The Vikings, masters of brutal efficiency, swept through the city, their eyes gleaming for gold, silver, and anything of value. Churches, once sanctuaries, became mere storehouses for treasures. Altars were stripped, sacred vessels melted down, and reliquaries cracked open for their contents. The rich merchants' houses were ransacked, their goods seized, their families taken as hostages. Ragnar's warriors moved with a terrifying precision, their ferocity matched only by their hunger for loot. For the Parisians, it was a living nightmare. They watched, helpless, as their city burned and their sacred places were desecrated. The sight of their homes ablaze, the screams of their neighbors, the terrifying laughter of the Vikings. These were memories that would forever sear themselves into their minds. The river, once a lifeline, now flowed past scenes of utter devastation, carrying ashes and debris downstream. Ragnar himself moved through the chaos, a figure of grim satisfaction. His strategy had paid off. The show of force, the initial brutality, and the overwhelming numbers had broken the will of the Frankish defenders, ensuring minimal resistance to the plunder. Paris, the proud city of the Franks, lay at his mercy, a testament to his power and a promise of immense riches. The longships, once vessels of war, were rapidly filling with the spoils of a kingdom, a testament to the might of the Dragon King. News of Paris's devastation reached King Charles the Bald swiftly, carried by terrified messengers who painted grim pictures of smoke-choked streets and burning churches. His heart must have sunk. His army, though not insignificant, was scattered, unprepared for the sheer scale and speed of Ragnar's assault. To confront such a vast and seasoned Viking force head-on was to risk total annihilation, leaving his kingdom utterly vulnerable. It was a gamble he could not afford. While Ragnar consolidated his gains in the ravaged city, systematically collecting the vast plunder, the Frankish court was gripped by a desperate dilemma. Brave voices urged battle, a righteous stand against the pagan invaders. But the pragmatists, looking at the exhausted, unorganized forces at hand, saw only defeat. The memory of recent, costly skirmishes against smaller Viking bands still loomed large. Messengers bearing heavy hearts and empty hands were dispatched to Ragnar's camp. The air around the Viking leader was thick with the scent of looted incense and the gleam of stolen gold. Negotiations began, a grim charade where the power lay entirely with the invaders. Ragnar, the seasoned extortionist, laid out his terms with cold clarity, an exorbitant sum of 7,000 pounds of silver and gold. It was an astronomical amount, a crippling blow to the royal treasury, but it came with a promise. The Vikings would leave. The king's decision was agonizing, a profound humiliation for the entire Frankish realm. To pay tribute to pagan raiders was to admit weakness, to set a dangerous precedent that would haunt his kingdom for generations. But the alternative, the complete destruction of Paris, the massacre of its remaining inhabitants, and the potential spread of Ragnar's fury deeper into his lands, was unthinkable. The silver and gold were gathered, stripped from churches, collected from nobles, a bitter tally of their failure to protect. For Ragnar, watching the steady stream of carts laden with precious metals, it was the ultimate triumph. His raid had not only secured immense wealth, but had also shattered the illusion of Frankish strength. He had brought a king to his knees, not by conquering a castle, but by holding a city hostage. The price was paid, and the terms of Paris's uneasy peace were sealed in silver, a testament to Frankish weakness and Viking might. The terms were met. The mountain of silver and gold, the bitter price of peace, had been delivered. With their longships now laden not just with plunder, but with the heavy, shining weight of the Danegeld, Ragnar's Vikings began their withdrawal. The sight of the massive fleet turning its prows downstream was a mixture of profound relief and deep, festering shame for the remaining Parisians. The siege was over, but the scars would remain. As the last dragon-headed vessel disappeared down the winding Seine, it left behind a city utterly ravaged. Paris was a landscape of charred timber and broken stone, its markets looted, its churches stripped bare, and its populace traumatized. The stench of smoke still hung heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the terror that had swept through their lives. The cost in lives was significant, but the spiritual and moral cost of the humiliation was immeasurable. For King Charles the Bald, the payment of the Danegeld was a painful necessity. It saved Paris from total annihilation and spared his weakened army from a likely catastrophic defeat. But it also set a dangerous precedent. Ragnar's success proved that the Frankish kingdom could be extorted, that its wealth could buy off its invaders. This would not be the last time Frankish kings would pay for peace with Viking raiders. Indeed, it became a common, humiliating practice in the decades to follow. Ragnar Lothbrok, meanwhile, sailed triumphantly back to his northern strongholds, his legend cemented, his sagas enriched. He had not merely raided, he had humiliated a king and plundered the heart of a kingdom. This audacious feat solidified his reputation as one of the most fearsome and successful Viking leaders of his age. While his ultimate fate remained shrouded in legend and historical debate, the raid on Paris in 845 AD became a cornerstone of his lore, a testament to his cunning, his ferocity, and the seemingly unstoppable might of his longships. The raid was a stark and brutal lesson for the Franks. It exposed their vulnerabilities, highlighting the urgent need for stronger defenses and a more unified response. In time, new fortifications would rise, and leaders like Odo, the future Count of Paris, would learn from these bitter experiences. But for now, Paris lay bruised and plundered, an enduring monument to the day when a dragon king brought a proud city to its knees and demanded its very wealth as the price of its survival. The echoes of Ragnar's longships and the cries of a burning city would forever reverberate through the annals of its history.